Hey guys, what's cracking? It's Krakenation here, coming at you guys today with the next installment of the competitive Pokemon Master Guide, and today we're going to be revisiting a Pokemon that we looked at earlier on in the competitive analysis videos, but we're going to be taking a more in-depth look at it today in Corviknight. Corviknight is, I think, either the #1 or #2 usage rate Pokemon in the OU metagame on Smogon, as well as all competitive formats, things like VGC. It's really viable right now. It's really good. It's a blanket check to so many things, and so we're going to just take a quick delve into what exactly is making it so good and what you can do to make it an effective part of your team when you're building with it, or alternatively what you can do to play around your opponent's Corviknight, which you can expect from opponent's Corviknights. Just having a really bit more in-depth understanding of how to use this Pokemon, what this Pokemon does, will help you just be a better competitive battler in today's Pokemon metagame, because it is so dominant. So let's go ahead and take a look at Corviknight. Obviously we've got the Steel Flying typing that is arguably the best, if not one of the best defensive typings of all time, making this thing only have 2 weaknesses to electric and fire type moves. It's got the abilities Pressure and Mirror Armor, both of which actually have niche uses. Mirror Armor is actually most sets will run Pressure, but Mirror Armor has some niche utility because a lot of Pokemon, a lot of fairies specifically like Sylveon or Gardevoir, are running Mystical Fire as their go-to move to hit Corviknight. So they're running Mystical Fire to lower their special attacks. That you could bring in Corviknight on a Mirror Armor drop, because as you know, Mystical Fire will drop that special attack stat as well. So Mirror Armor will bounce back that effect, and your opponent's special attack will be lowered. So Corviknight can actually become a pretty effective special wall against Pokemon that rely on Mystical Fire to hit it. Definitely niche, but definitely something you want to keep an eye on. Overall though, Pressure is pretty helpful because you can use it to PP stall a lot of opponents, because Corviknight does not have Toxic. That's going to be your go-to ability of choice to kind of just whittle down more defensive Pokemon over time. Taking a look at the stat breakdown here, you're going to see just pretty solid mixed defenses overall, with 98 Bulk HP and 105 defense being this Pokemon pretty physically tanky, and then 85 special defense being nothing to scoff at either. 87 physical attack makes this thing physically not necessarily threatening, but not non-existent, which is what a lot of defensive Pokemon fall into, unfortunately. So this Pokemon isn't physically, it's better than Skarmory, for example. I think through this video, Corviknight's always been compared to Skarmory. Most people find it to be a little better than Skarmory. I'm not sure if I'm of that belief, but I think overall Corviknight's a better blanket check. And the fact that it has some offensive presence can be really useful. 53 special attack, obviously you're not using that. 67 speed is, not good. You know, you're a defensive Pokemon, you don't care as much about your speed. If anything, sometimes you wish you were a little slower, because you could get even slower U-turns and slow pivots, and that can be really good because you can take a hit as a Corviknight and then come in, bring in something in by you clicking U-turn, which is what its main niche is, as a defensive pivot. You could bring in something that's kind of afraid to take a hit, maybe like a Zeraora would be a great partner for Corviknight, for example. But we're going to take a look at stuff like that later. So overall, you got some good mixed defenses, but you're going to want to keep in mind you are physically capable, but not great, and you are going to be a little more vulnerable on the specialty defensive side if you don't invest in that. So we're going to take a look at some strengths and weaknesses of Corviknight. So the first things I want to talk about is that it's got a great typing that gives it a plethora of natural defensive resistances. This is what I was talking about. What really carries Corviknight to be a defensive wall, and a really great one at that, more than its stats, because its stats are great, but they're not amazing. They're good, not great, I should say. But the Steel Flying typing, giving it just a lot of resistances to a lot of key offensive types in the metagame right now. Things like Ground or Fairy, these really relevant offensive typings just can't hit this, so it's going to be really effective in that regard. And that's what's really it's kind of relying on to be as defensively potent as it is. It's got good mixed bulk that makes it a versatile defender, so you can kind of specialize your Corviknight. If you need to take on special defenders, special attackers, you can make Corviknight a more specially bulky Pokemon pretty comfortably, something that Skarmory's in the past weren't really capable of doing. Especially defensive Skarmory was pretty lackluster. With Skarmory, you really had to run physical defense and just focus on that. But because Corviknight's got that mixed bulk, it's able to do both quite effectively. Now, maybe not be a physical wall as efficiently as Skarmory, but give and take, everything's like that in Pokemon. So you're going to be able to specialize your Corviknight based on your team's needs. It's got access to diverse support moves. I think notably it's got things like Taunt, Roost, and Defog are your big 3. U-turn's also another really useful utility move that you could use on your Corviknight. Now, unfortunately, it does not have Toxic, and it does not have Stealth Rocks or Spikes, so there's going to be some places where it falls a little short of Skarmory, but just overall, the fact that it has U-turn is massive. So U-turn probably is more valuable than any one of those moves because it's able to take a hit, tank a hit on, then defensively pivot out into your offensive frail mon that can now proceed to do a lot of damage and work, hopefully. So finally, the final thing I want to say about it is that it's not offensively deadweight. Like I said earlier, that 85 or it was 87 attack stat is going to make this thing not completely useless on the offensive spectrum. It's got some good moves. It can click things like body press, which uses that good defense stat. Brave Bird, Ironhead, it's got good stabs, a little bit of coverage there with body press. So you've got the tools to hit what you need to hit. Now it's not going to be known as an offensive destroyer of worlds or anything, but it's not deadweight. Now there are some weaknesses. The biggest one, which is kind of interesting, is that the meta has warped around it, and this is just kind of a statement of fact as far as like how it's a proclamation of how good Corviknight must be and how effective it must be in the metagame. That what is good in the metagame is almost all entirely dictated by what Corviknight has done to it, which is to say that things like Zera Aura, Rotom Heat are really, really powerful a lot of the time because Corviknight is so omnipresent in the metagame. So the meta has warped around a little bit, which makes it kind of, it's a cycle where the meta warps to beat Corviknight, so Corviknight becomes less popular, so the meta warps away from Corviknight, so Corviknight becomes more popular, so the meta warps to beat Corviknight. It's kind of going to be a cycle, that's how these things go over time. But suffice it to say that Corviknight is still going to be really good no matter what. It's just that the meta has adapted to beat it somewhat. It lacks some offensive output. Like I said, it's not deadweight, but it's not going to be a destroyer of worlds by any stretch of the imagination. And finally, without bulk up, it can't really hope to break through other defensive Pokemon. Skarmory has Toxic, and this unfortunately does not have Toxic, which is going to make it very, very hard for you to whittle down things like Hippowdon that can just take hits from you. That's where that ability Pressure comes into play, because with Pressure, you'll be able to PP stall them a little bit over time, and hopefully, eventually, you'll put them in a bad spot with their moves. So, it's not as good against defensive Pokemon as Skarmory was, but just keep that in mind. So the first set I want to talk about here is just a very standard defensive set. We're going to run careful with 252 Spadef, so we're going to be a Spadef Skarmory to counteract all the specially defensive Pokemon out there right now in the metagame. Now if you wanted to run a physically defensive Skarmory, I think that's equally viable, and the moves only change slightly. You could also go mixed. I think there's a really good mixed spread where if you run, let's talk about the moves here. If you ran Body Press on your Skarmory, on your Corviknight, if you ran Body Press on your Corviknight, that's so funny. You'd be able to run, I think, 48 attack EVs. So you divest out of your special defense into defense, and you invest 48 EVs into your physical defense stat, and that would, even with the careful nature, and that would allow Body Press to 2-hit KO opposing Excadrill, which could be very useful. As you know, Excadrill is a Pokemon that Corviknight is relied on to check in a lot of games. So that may be something you want to consider. That first move spot, Ironhead, Brave Bird, you could also put Body Press there, so you could have any of those three moves, and then the final spot, U-turn or Body Press, is really useful. Basically, you're going to want to run an attack move. U-turn, I think, is oftentimes, depending on the team you're running, too good to forego. So you're going to have to pick Ironhead, Brave Bird, or Body Press based on what the team around you is needing. If you need something to beat Excadrill more reliably, Body Press might be the way to go. If you need something to kind of chip at Clefable, Ironhead might be a good play. If you need to be able to reliably kill Conkeldurr maybe out there, Brave Bird could be really good for you. Roost is really good, and then Defog, I guess, isn't necessary if you have a Defogger or a Spinner somewhere else on your team, but obviously Corviknight, the fact that it can come in and click Defog and then U-turn out can be so useful in so many matches, so it is maybe the best, if not one of the best, hazard clearers in the metagame right now, and that's what this set aims to take advantage of. Just come in and be really fat, clear some hazards, U-turn out, and maybe deal with enough offensive threat along the way here and there. Looking at the next set, this is a bulk up variant, and this is kind of a cool set. I do enjoy it. Leftovers, we're going to run this exact 252 and 252 Spadef. Sorry, that should say Spadef here. I put speed down, but 252 special defense here with a careful nature, okay? So what I want you guys to do is consider if you're going to run Brave Bird or Body Press here. Keep in mind, bulk up will be boosting that physical defense stat, so Body Press will hit harder and harder, but you will not be able to hit ghost types or really like bulky psychics very hard. You won't be hitting that hard in general, so you boost up a lot. On the other hand, Brave Bird gets boosted up by your physical attack getting buffed, so do whatever you want. Taunt or Substitute are both really good options to avoid getting opposing statuses inflicted on you. Things like Thunder Wave, perhaps from Clefable, could be really helpful to avoid, as well as just avoid that big hit maybe. And then a Roost, obviously a recovery. Now, I apologize about that Spadef. Just keep that in mind that you are going to run a Spadef on this investment because you will be boosting your physical defense. So you want to make sure you're invested in your special defense so that you're not vulnerable on that side. So finally, I want to talk about some team options and counters you have when you're looking to build with Corviknight. So first up, we want to talk about how the fact that it really appreciates powerful wall breakers that can appreciate the slow pivot that Corviknight offers. So a lot of Pokemon, things like Conkeldurr or Kyurem come to mind. Zeraora isn't really a wall breaker, but it comes to mind as well. These frail offensive Pokemon that really want Kyurem is a fantastic partner, I think, for Corviknight, perhaps better than almost any Pokemon in the game. Kyurem really appreciates the fact that Corviknight can come in, clear hazards reliably for it, and then U-turn into it to let it come in for free. So that's going to be a really good option for you to hopefully crap on some of those. But just in general, those powerful wall breakers that don't want to take hits will be really good partners for you. Things like Gengar as well. Teammates that really fear powerful steel or poison types like Clefable or, like I talked about, Kyurem are going to be really good partners because Corviknight can really effectively come in on those Pokemon. Maybe click Body Press on opposing Excadrill or opposing Ferrothorns or something like that. And finally, Pokemon that beat fire and electric types like Seismitoad, Kumo, or Hippowdon are going to be really good partners for you because those are Pokemon that Corviknight obviously fears. So if you compare it, I keep coming back to this, but I think Kyurem is maybe the best partner for Corviknight, or at least Kyurem appreciates Corviknight more than any other Pokemon in the game right now. Because if you look at this, Kyurem can absolutely crap on Seismitoad and Hippowdon with Freeze Dry, Ice Beam, Kumo as well. So you're going to be really appreciative in that sense. But then because Kyurem's going to struggle with things like Bisharp maybe, or it's not Bisharp to an extent, but maybe like Scarf Excadrill or a Clefable potentially. Corviknight can come in on those, clear away hazards at some point in the game, and then U-turn back into Kyurem to keep up that offensive pressure. So I really want you guys to think about pairing Corviknight with a potential Kyurem. Or like just in general, those really powerful wall breakers. Other Pokemon that come to mind, yeah, definitely like things like Conkeldurr are really good for it right now. So it does have some problems for it, you know, like any Pokemon, it's gonna have counters. The biggest one is that Rotom Heat is a complete counter. This thing literally cannot touch Rotom Heat to save its life. You're gonna get destroyed by Rotom Heat every single time it comes in, so you need to be prepared for it. That, I suggest something like Seismitoad could be a really good partner for you as well. Just keep that in mind. Bulky water types, especially those with haze, can whittle this thing down. So that's things like Toxapex. Now keep in mind, Corviknight can come in on Toxapex, clear away hazards, and you turn out, but it can get whittled down. And if you are running a bulk up Corviknight, you can't set up against opposing bulky waters, things that have haze, so no Toxapex is out there. You won't be able to set up on any of those. Or I think Milotic as well. But finally, powerful fire and electric types like Zeraora, the Rotom forms, or Cinderace. These Pokemon just in general, Zeraora like really messes up Corviknight pretty hardcore. Obviously the Rotom forms like Rotom Heat we just talked about. Cinderace as well is another really good answer to Corviknight because it can come in on maybe an Iron Head, or if it just has a free switch and comes in, and then Pyro Ball is not an easy move to switch into. That's why you're going to really look for partners maybe that can take on those fire types. Something like a Seismitoad, again, is another potentially great combo with Corviknight, just because Seismitoad can take on the Rotom Heats and Cinderaces, and not the Grass Knot Zeraoras of the world, but just those in general. So that's my analysis of Corviknight, guys. I hope you guys found this video helpful. Hope you guys are enjoying this format, and that we will continue to keep sending these videos out in the future. I think this has hopefully been what you guys have been looking for as far as that analysis content, and we're gonna hopefully take more time in the future to get some more videos like this out. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff, guys. I'm sorry this channel was so inactive for so long, but I'm gonna try to be better about it from here on out. So until next time, I will see you guys later.